So I needed to go and look at it very carefully first. Okay, so this is exactly how things were for us, probably in February, and suddenly things changed completely for us from April, May, and now we are in mid-June. So we've spent quite some days, trying to understand how to manage what's happening in the second picture, the picture at the bottom. So what I've tried to do here is I've tried to structure it this way, so the first thing that I'm looking at is the reality check, an assessment of readiness, whether we think we are really ready. So for HR practitioners, work from home is something which has largely been a lot of jargon. We have a lot of policies. Most organizations will always say that there is somebody or the other who is in fact working from home. So these are things that we know. As people grow higher up the ladder, they take it almost for granted. So it's treated at par with working at the office place. However, if you see with this kind of a change, we realize that a lot of us who are probably not so ready. So that's the first thing we want to cover. The second is, what are the challenges that organizations would face in implementing these kind of policies? So everything has to have, everything that we do in organization will have a certain policy. It lays out a certain guideline, how we want to go ahead and do our work. And the last is driving high performance in a remote ecosystem and accepting who I would like to call as the authentic employee. Because somewhere we have employees and then we have authentic employees. So how are we going to get to do the latter? So is what we're looking at. So just so that we are all at par, so I'm going to just put what work from home is, so telecommuting, it's called remote working. There are tons of names and labels, which are there. They are part of a series of interventions in organizations which are driven towards improving the quality of work life. I mean, if you traced it backwards, then you will realize that there are certain concepts which are all closely tied into this. You have then work-life balance and you have work-life integration and so on, and it moves on. Okay, so when we're looking at telecommuting, very simply, it's a work arrangement in which employees do not commute or travel to a central place of work like an office. It could be a store, it could be a warehouse, it could be a factory, it could be any place. Okay, so all we're trying to put here very simply is that somebody does not travel to that place of work. So I'm going to go with this definition at this point. Okay, so quick question for y'all, answers to be put down on the chat. So when did this originate? Come on, quick. You have 4 options. World War, no. Where's the rest of the class? Millennial, okay. Pre-industrial revolution, okay. Who else? B, D, C, okay. Anisha saying pre-industrial, D, okay. 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 People are at least responding and I'm happy. B, okay. Why nobody thinks it's World War? Unlikely, people were too busy fighting. Okay, so some of you have got answers. It's actually B. So if you actually looked at it, people were mostly always working from home. If you started with the blacksmiths and the cobblers and the bakers and the stores and the seamstresses and everybody was actually in fact home. After the Industrial Revolution, when there was a lot of focus on machinery and focused working, and when the concept of factories and offices started, so that's how people started moving from their homes to their place of work. What internet has done for us is made this job far easier. Ideally, if you see, technology is an enabler. The organization naturally stands to benefit. And in this case, now the employees also stand to benefit. A recent survey in fact showed that 97% of the people preferred jobs that offered them flexibility. So this has emerged to be a need, in most of your workforce. Cool, so we'll go ahead. Okay, thank you guys for your response. People are still responding. So the answer is pre-industrial revolution. I'll just put that. I wanted to just share something, which came up, as part of this research that I was doing for this. So, so this is not structured. So the research which I have shared here, or the surveys which I have shown here, they're not structured. So this is just something which I want to bear in mind, when we talk about this. So the first thing is 93% of the organization defer to their managers to decide who can and who cannot work remotely. So what we're trying to talk about here is that, let's say you have a work from home policy, but it's not something which is treated as a mandate. So it's not like just because you have a work from home policy and it applies to all levels, people don't automatically exercise those options. So you typically have the organization, it's like those unstated rules, where they say, okay, let the manager decide. So that's how this goes, okay? In cases when the policy allows it also, only 56% of managers actually let their employees work remotely. So that means we still have a whopping 44% who prefer that employees haul themselves to office. So this is again something. 54% of HR leaders cite poor technology or infrastructure for remote working as the biggest barrier. So this is again something which has come up. So these are part of consulting firms. So this first one here is a Gartner study, the other is a Right study. So what people have said is that technology, or probably insufficient technological infrastructure, poses to be the biggest barrier. And I'm sure all of us have probably experienced this, and we relate to the point at number 3 now, especially when we have when we are at home with family, people are using their Netflixes and Prime Video, all of us are juggling our working times. You'll realize this happened, 43% of employees. On the other hand, the other study is all about employee perception. Okay, what employees felt. Strangely, 43% of employees don't believe they can do their jobs effectively from home. So that is again a big number, I think. So probably because they don't have access to certain information, maybe they feel they're more efficient at the office. Maybe they prefer working in that team culture and being around people. So that is something we have. 52% have said that a work from home policy would harm their organization's productivity. So the case against is quite strong, with people feeling that it might harm. 31% of employees say they don't know how their company measures remote productivity. So this is again very interesting. And for all those of us interested in people practice, and ideally, I don't think people practice is now a very isolated domain. Everybody has to manage people. So whether you're majoring in operations, marketing, finance, whatever, if you want to get people to do your job, you better know people practice. It's as simple as that and as straight as that. So 31% of employees say they don't know how they measure it. So a measure here, what I'm trying to say, so let's say you're in office and there are certain traditional norms of how your performance is viewed. Maybe that is completely lost now, because your manager can't really see how you're doing your job. So you are ultimately dependent on the results that you can deliver. So the effort has suddenly gone out the window. So that is probably also something which drives this. 23% say there's no formal measurement other than trust. So this is again an interesting dimension. Trust, yes, is most important. We like to encourage a culture of trust, but you can only have a culture of trust when people hold themselves accountable. So if you have always had a culture where your manager had only do very guided level supervision, or where there was no requirement of micromanaging or put some very stern control. So in all these cases, if you see, trust is something which will probably tilt the apple cart. Okay, so this is the background. So before I go into the next one, so I want to know your views now so far. So any questions, anything that you wish to share? So like I said at the start, there will be bonus points for all those of you who choose to speak up. So I am certainly not going to sit and yak for 1.5 hours, that's certain. So how are you all finding this thing, working from home? Is this whatever you've done? I mean, presuming that you all are all working and doing something productively.
Ma'am, can I speak?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Ma'am, actually, I had asked a question in the chat box.
Ah, okay. I'm sorry, I missed that. Let me look at it. What did the other 46% feel was a barrier? No, it was not a study based on a ranking of the barriers. Okay, so if it were a ranking, then I could have given you the number. So it was more like, you know, probably technology versus probably not as much technology.
But ma'am, other than the technological aspects, what else could be the barrier as far as remote working is concerned? Considered.
Tons of them. You think of some. I'll share, of course. Anyone else? Other than the technology, what else do you guys think are barriers to working from home?
Environment at home.
Sorry?
Environment at home.
Okay, info. Okay, what else?
Less concentration.
Okay. So let's structure it a little bit here. So let us look at organizational barriers and let's look at employee barriers. Can we do that? That will be easier, right? So let's first take organizational barriers. I'll put one. I'll put culture. So let's say we have a culture where we have never allowed people to take responsibility, or where we have never empowered people to do anything on their own. So let's say we have a very autocratic culture. Okay, where the manager has to be out there looking at his people, breathing down their necks and telling them, do this, do that. If you don't do this, see what I do. If you have this culture and then one fine day, supposing they go to the, you tell him to start working from home, I'm pretty sure this guy is going to take it as a paid vacation. Because he's not getting the inputs that he needs to get working. So that could be one. So any more such. Someone has put this one, so the lack of office environment. So this could probably be a subcategory of this, you know, the absence of a formal working environment. Somebody has put family. Yeah.
Motivation, ma'am.
Motivation, as in like driven self-motivation, you say? Or?
No, ma'am, in an office when we are working, we see people around us working. So we get motivated to work. Whereas at home, we don't find that sort of environment. So we feel less motivated, or lack of motivation can be a reason.
True. You need to be a little more self-driven because you need to be very disciplined yourself. Because there is no 9 to 5 now. It starts at 7 for some, it goes on until 11 for some. For some people, it never starts. You know, you have all varieties. So yeah, somebody has put family as a barrier. I don't know how to take that. I would not like to call family a barrier. They could be a distraction. See, I can safely say, as somebody who has been managing this kind of virtual working since 2000, I can only tell you this much. It requires fantastic amount of self-discipline to keep you going, because you really miss working in a team sometimes because you're pretty much on your own. So and your assignments are typically with clients. So it's a very short-term thing. You get to meet a lot of people. So, but I would not call them distraction. I would call them distractions, but they're no barrier. They are on our side after all, right? They are not against us. And I don't like to look at people who are with me as my barriers. You know, they may need more of me, but I don't think they're barriers. Comfort zone, yes, totally. All the, you know, aram se utho, that yes, that's an issue.
Ma'am, it depends on the work that is being done. Like if the work requires the team to work together towards achieving the goal, then it becomes an issue because everyone is separated in their own individual place. Whereas in an office, the people are working together.
True. So in fact, you know, when we will talk of implementation, this exact point that you have said will be discussed when we speak of readiness and our ability to implement. We will see when we can and when we can't. So somewhere, if you see, there are certain jobs which you can, certain jobs that you can never do. Like let's say healthcare. They really can't be doing anything sitting. I mean, like a surgery can't be done sitting inside their house, right? Like at least at this point of time until AI takes over maybe. But if you look at it, you know, so that's one thing. And there are some jobs which can be done at a cost. So this point will be relevant to this case of where, you know, some things possible maybe with a cost, you know, that way. Someone has also put allowing more autonomy. Yes. So if you allow your people autonomy, they are probably trained to, how do I say, trained to be able to work on their own. But if you have not trained your people well, and if you have not, if you have not established a certain kind of a culture, then maybe, those things become an issue. Now let's look at, so you've given me some of the employee related barriers, like, comfort zone and all that, the discipline and the motivation. But from the organization side, if you had to look at it more from the structural perspective, more from how the organization works, what do you think would be those barriers?
Ma'am, basic barrier would be like scheduling. One employee would be working at one time, another employee would be working at another time. So
True.
basically, if they're working at the same project, then the supervision and everything and collaboration of the project would be quite difficult.
True. That is one thing. Yes. Yes.
Lack of communication.
With whom? With the bosses, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. Big concern. Yeah. Out of sight, out of mind. That seems to have emerged as one issue now. Again, somebody has put this.
Accessing information.
Yes.
Like, for example, one department has to access information from another department. So working from home becomes the problem. Like, it's much easier to do it within the office environment rather than doing it from home.
I was recently speaking with somebody who works for the HR of a bank, and this person said for the first couple of weeks or first 2-3 weeks since the lockdown, 60% of their work was affected. So 60% was affected because, especially if you look at a very regulated environment like financial services and banks, etc. Now there is a tremendous emphasis and care given to data security. So their systems are designed in a way that they cannot be operated outside the confines of those those networks. Now what happens is when you're talking about a remote environment, the access permissions could never be given at all. Which means like you have to absolutely revamp the way the DBMS is structured for you to be able to give certain permissions to certain categories. And if you did it, then that means you're putting your data at a risk. So obviously, so there are certain things where you actually cannot do anything, so some departments took a huge hit. Especially in those cases where the employees were probably at an execution level. So that means they may not have their own laptops and things like that. But probably the very senior levels were able to do, but they were probably doing their own firefighting, So that is one thing. Okay, so I've got some interesting points here. People have put this down. Working from home will make people more lazy and might lose the professional skills which can be developed at work. I am not too sure, without the maids, at least in India, I don't think we have all gotten lazier. We have all learned work on our own, I think. Organization value beliefs, yes, probably some dilution. Yeah, productivity may be affected. To move productive when you work from office. Again, a debatable point. Technical glitch, yes, definitely. Decision making, yes, delayed, yeah, of course. And in this particular environment, I will say decision making is as it is a little delayed because everybody is operating on a bunch of unknown variables. So everything, as you see, is evolved. And we have access either to too much information and probably we lack the skills to sieve out what is in fact accurate and what is not, so somewhere that becomes a bit of a...
Ma'am, and one more thing,
yeah.
Human relationship touch is gone. Like when we are face to face and we're just in front of the screen. So basically that human relationship physically is gone with respect to work from home thing.
See, the personal context is probably lost to a large extent, okay? But I would definitely here emphasize on the role of technology, which has made so much of it possible also. I mean, in all honesty, yes, it's not that you going out there, meeting your friends and being with them. That is not something which I'm sure none of us are thinking that in the very near future, it will happen definitely and everybody wants, but there is also the talk of the new normal. So the idea is that is why communication is so important. See, I give you another contrast, just a situation which I was thinking of anyways, Let's say you meet somebody in college, okay, for a period of a year. And in the initial month of say June and July, you would say hi to this person. And say come August, September, October, November, December, for some reason you don't interact with this person. When you go back to meet this person sometime in January or the next year's, the Feb, there is always going to be that little bit of a distance. Wouldn't that be so? Why? Because you have simply lost out of touch. So, but let's say on the other hand, there is somebody with whom you have been communicating at some irregular interval. So the ability to pick up where you left off, that is what probably determines how much how much damage this loss of personal contact has done. Okay, so are we using that technology right? Are we using that to communicate with people, or people are so swamped in their work and trying to get whatever they have to do that they are not able to interact? Social interaction stands affected. Yes, completely agree. Right. So okay, so I'll take this ahead now. Let me just go to the next. It is really nice to hear your views, so please keep talking. Okay. Okay, so this is what I have tried to do here. So we have looked at this readiness assessment. So if you looked at the course objective, I put a reality check. Now, what is this entire business of a reality check is to know whether we are ready and whether we are able to go ahead with this thing, in terms of whether we want to, how we are going to handle the organization, how are we going to have people. So let's say you have 1,000-strong organization and maybe 30 of them, or say 250 of them were working from home always. Today you have all the 1,000 who are supposed to be working from home. So that also puts, you know what it is to work from home. You've got all the right policies, you know how to communicate this. So your implementation is all going good. But this still becomes a transition. This is still a challenge for organizations. So one aspect that I felt we needed to cover was culture. The second is employee commitment. And the third is performance expectation. I think typically if you are able to get a sense of this, we are a little better. This may not be an exhaustive check. In the interest of time, I have tried to identify 3 which I felt were most relevant. But if you looked at the 3 of it, I think we get some sense of what we are trying to do. So one thing which I wanted, again, now after each element, we will take a quick, a small break for discussion. Okay. So now let's take the first one. Let's look at a case of when you look at organizational culture. So there are 2 dimensions which I felt that we needed to look at. One is an industrial culture versus an informational culture. Now, when you're looking at industrial here, I'm not talking about industry as in the economic sense as we understand. That is clearly not what I'm talking about. What we are talking about is whether organization structures, systems, processes are intensive with respect to face-to-face interaction, and they route employees to specific workplaces. As in, do they tie people down to that particular office? So let us take the branch managers of your nationalized banks. So he knows that his office is in ABC location, he has to be there. I'm talking about that. If you're looking at a doctor in a clinical practice, he has to be there. So we are talking about organizations where the nature of the work itself is such that it becomes intensive face-to-face, and where it is necessary to route people to specific places. Informational setups will typically operate through voice, mail communications, and are flexible and informal, more because the nature of their work is only information exchange. Okay, so if you look at, say, call centers, for example, or if you're looking at IT, okay, so if they're able to, leverage the nature of their work completely, virtually. So that is something we look at. The other thing is traditional versus work from home, where you have a very traditional organization where it could be a small organization, it could be medium. Okay, most of our large organizations in our country are all, quite familiar with WFH. That is work from home. But if you look at a very traditional kind of an organization versus some organization where this culture exists. So you have commuting, flexible work timings, work from home. These are many options that the organizations implement. So this is one part about the culture. I have not referred to the softer dimensions of culture like collaboration, trust, etc., because we'll be covering that a little later. Any questions on this? Anyone wants to put something down? Just check if something's come up in the chat. Okay, cool. The next aspect is your employee commitment. So the first thing is trust and an open culture are two determinants here again. So in business, trust is like a three-legged stool. The leadership must trust the employees must trust the leadership, customers have to trust the company. So even if, let's say, one leg of that stool is missing, then you know what will happen. It will topple the person. So if you looked at it today more than any other time, we are realizing the importance of trust. Let's say you have a manager who never trusted you while you were in the office. Today, even that manager has to trust that his subordinate is doing some work which is in the interest of the company. Right? We always hear, right, of the bad bosses, the bosses who will look at their time when employees leave the workplace. We hear of all of this, the ones who will pull a face if they have to sign on a leave form. We have the nasties here and there. But today, if you see, everyone's at par. So trust is something which has emerged. An open culture, again, open, why? Because if you're used to having a transparent or at least a need to know communication basis, if you have nurtured a culture where people are able to talk, express, what happens is your own ability to trust them to do the right thing will go up, which you could not otherwise, if you have to dictate thought for them. So that's one thing. The other thing again about commitment is the nature of your managers, whether they have been reactive or proactive. So you are well aware of this. So if you have reactive people, they'll react to a problem after it arises. A proactive manager will probably prevent those problems before they arise. Very simply put again. So these are two things that come up. The next and the most important challenge is laying out performance expectations. Okay. Most of my colleagues and friends who are working in industry, and when I've spoken with them, tell me that they clock in far more hours now that work from home has begun than when they had regular work hours. So let's say people headed out to work at say 9 a.m. or whatever. Today people are working from 7 or 7:30 in the morning because they wake up to calls and emails, and then the day goes on. And then let's say if they are balancing across time zones, then the day extends longer or it starts earlier. So one important thing here, and I think this was always relevant even in a regular context, is stating very clear performance objectives and clarity on performance measurement. See, one thing is to tell people, I expect you to log in at this time, log off at that time, be present by your laptop the entire time, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That is saying what? That only clarifies about presence. It still doesn't clarify performance. The other is to say that, okay, I don't care, you log in at 9 and then you want to do whatever household chores you want to between 11 and 12. But by 1, I want all of this done, is probably a more sensible way of doing it. It's an option. Okay. Measurement again is whether I'm going to measure your performance on your being logged in from 9 to 1, whether you got anything done, or whether I will only be measuring your performance basis at the end of 1 month, what all you have done. So that is clarifying performance measurement and what are the yardsticks that I am going to use to measure this. So this becomes a very, very important aspect of our own assessment. We need to know what we want them to do. So if the organization itself is unclear, you're going to pass on the same lack of clarity to your staff. And then again, of course, setting up rewards and recognition. So this is going to be an even bigger challenge simply because you will not know what to reward and what to recognize because people are out of sight. It's a little easier to do these things when people are in front of you. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is difficult. And there will always be some amount of subjective bias. There will be a lot of those other factors that might go and affect the quality of these decisions. Okay, so I'm going to stop share here. And I want you all to tell me now, what other factors do you think organizations should look at? Anything beyond this? And any other queries you may have with respect to this? Speak up. Anything else you feel organizations should check? This is enough.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So, ma'am, as you said that people are working from 7:30 in the morning and they are working like up late. So, don't you think that the work-life balance is getting affected over here?
I do.
So, companies should they should create new sets of rules.
Yes, they should.
So, what is your take on this? And what all companies basically can do in order to reduce this tension which will be created between the work and your life at staying home.
See, okay, so I'm not going to get too deep into it because Pradeep sir is going to be doing a session very soon, you know, on what HR should be doing post this. So I'm sure there will be a lot of interesting insights there. Having said that, one thing is emerging very clearly. A lot of it will depend upon a manager's own competency to assess how well his people are doing. Okay, so the first thing is like, let's say I know my people are genuinely working, then I see no reason why I would not even, why I can't promote also that person at this time. If I know somebody is really working well, okay, and if my policies will permit it, I see no reason why one should not. Okay, so a lot of it will again depend upon that person's own ability to, you know, understand, defend and justify their performance. So that will happen. So let's say you know what you're measuring, you know what you're supposed to achieve, you know your people are doing a fine job, then you must. Okay, so that's one part of it. Now the second part of your question, you know, in terms of what happens to this whole stress, you know, see, the stress is common across, and I think that is where the empathy is important. Why is the stress common across? Because people, this is something new to us, right? Nobody has faced the situation. So whoever it is, notwithstanding age, experience, all the other common factors aside, this is something which people are trying to grapple with. And people are trying their best to, you know, understand and adapt and stay positive in this situation. Okay, so now if you look at stress, again, stress can never be comparative. I can't say the job loss stress is more for somebody, but for somebody else has a loan stress. Is it right to compare personal stresses? No, it is incorrect. As an analysis, it is very incorrect. Unless we have a scientific method of putting a point system on this stress money, this much value, this stress money, itna value, only then that analysis will make any sense according to me. To each his own. I mean, literally and truly speaking today, it is to each his own. So in that kind of an environment, organizations which are able to deliver that empathy and probably able to communicate and engage with their employees better are probably the ones who are likely to, you know, keep their staff, you know, in reasonably good mental health and take them forward. That is why that people practice and your ability to have good people skills matters the most. Because I've got a view here, no daily Zoom meeting by companies because later employees can't continue with work as all don't have Wi-Fi connection. That is true, but today, if you see, I think Wi-Fi has become more or less like a need. So everyone has it. And I think most people who are at work have probably been already advised to keep this infrastructure put in place. You know, so let's say you have a low bandwidth connection. I'm sure that organization has probably advised you to kind of upgrade. So those instructions have been given from the day go. Especially organizations where they have stable environments, where they know that a lot of people are going to be working from home. Some of these, how do I put, first line communications have been taken care of. So I would not expect that to be much of a challenge. And for those who have not considered that to be a necessity are probably realigning with the new normal. One new normal is the need of this connectivity. You know, it is so important. So those are certain things that you end up needing to prioritize. I mean, I'll give you a small example here. As a mother of two girls, I will always tell my children to cut down on gadget time. Okay, I am very particular that they don't constantly stare into the screen and do this and that. But then today, I look at it, both of them are spending an active 5 hours school using only tablets or a laptop. After that, the rest of the project work and submissions, which are also going online, are also done on this. So one is care a little older, but the younger one who is 11 is subject to the same amount of eye strain and stress. So this is a new normal for me. It concerns me, but there is precious little I can do because this is the way things have changed. So for each of us, that adjustment, similarly for organizations, where they never thought they would work from home. Today they're all adjusting. They're figuring out what they can do best, how they can do it. Does that help you? Does that, yeah? Okay, somebody else has also put this comment. They said that there is a lack of visibility of work put in by an employee resulting in demotivation. Yes, because there is no effort now. Nobody is seeing your effort. So it's like this. So let's say you stay logged on to your computer from 9:30 in the morning till 1:30, but your manager will not believe it because he's not seeing you unless you're on a video call with him the entire time. And he does not need to believe you. So he has to change his mindset and say that, okay, I'm not really to be bothered about how long this guy is sitting in front of me, so long as he's getting the job done. So that is a matter of growth for the manager as well, right? The change in mindset. So that is important, yeah.
But Dev, am I audible?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, you are. Speak.
Have come up companies, MNCs have come up recently with software which actually take a note of the hours you're working, the hours of mouse, the mouse you're tapping, the work you're doing. It's not just the movement of mouse, but the clicks you do. And when it comes down to confidentiality too, that comes a grave threat to the organization's part, because they cannot share their data. Like my mom works in TCS. So
Right.
she's not allowed to, not allowed, but she had to take prior permission to access
Yes.
the data on the TCS server.
Absolutely.
Which is a big deal. And they needed tokens and everything to log on to with. So we had to go and get the tokens. So when it
Yes.
comes down to confidentiality, I don't think
Yes.
the organization has that much of threat when it comes down to all of these measures what they're taking.
So they need to take these measures because you have a lot of client information with you. Okay, and loss of data is going to give you too much of negative consequences, the least of which will be your reputation.
That's correct.
You start looking at the penalties and the charges. Okay, and the next time whenever you have to go to your insurance guys for premium, they'll bleed you dry. That's the way it will work. So these are certain things. See, why is the stress surrounding it? Because we never envisage this. The process is right. We need to do it. Whether it's a TCS, whether whichever organization.
No, any organization.
Any organization.
XYZ. I gave an example because it was in front of me.
It is something which happened with you. If you see this, why, for that matter, if you looked at working from home, so many people are doing the same thing today in their homes that they are doing at their workplace. Why were companies not able to extend this from the day go?
No,
they did not do it.
Because companies right now have they've come up. TCS has already come up with a plan that all the workforce
will go
95% from 2025 will be work from home.
Exactly, right? So you read that. Yeah. So exactly. So now this has opened their eyes, right, to a new method.
Yes, and did
not happened before.
When you see it in a practical point of view, work from home, sending the employees, a workforce of lakhs at home will save a lot of resources for the organization as well.
Yes.
But at that same point of time, it compromises the team effort. Like, for example, you need the help of certain colleagues to get forward with the task. You can't do everything on your own. Teamwork is essential. So when it comes down to work from home, there's a lot of miscommunication, like from one person to another. One person is free, the other person isn't. So uske andar work time gets elongated.
See,
so that cannot be dealt with until you're in the office.
See, the problem is because today we are not working with a formally structured work timing. Let us say, I give you another scenario. Let us say, I say, let's work from home, but let's all work from 9 to 5 from sitting in the house. Supposing we made this. Okay, I'm giving you a hypothetical. Let us say we all work from home, but we work 9 to 5 sitting in the house. Then what happens is automatically, if I raise a query to you or whatever, to a colleague, then the colleague is mandated to revert back to me because that person is following those timelines. Today, what our interpretation of work from home is something which has given me a lot of flexibility and which is the purpose of working from home. Correct? So these minor delays, etc., are still manageable and probably are things which will be ironed out over a period of time. What will help iron out? Communication, team meetings, the same kind of Zoom things that we are talking about. Zoom used for probably knowledge sharing purposes, learning, interaction, resolving problems, and so on. Those kind of things will help. So these are all process level issues, right? A delay, something where you are awaiting something, your work can't start because somebody's output is not ready, all these kind of issues, I'm saying that will go.
There is lag in the work.
There
Like,
will
for
be.
example, if the work gets done in half an hour, it gets elongated to 4 hours.
Possibly. So in some cases it might happen, but the trade-off for the organization is, do I accept a 4-hour delay, or do I say let nobody come and do any work at all?
No, that is imminent to happen in today's time.
Yeah.
You can't get out of the house.
So you can't. And plus, what is the addition of the workforce that I'm getting today? When I say I'm ready to work from home, practically the world is my oyster then. So you have access to everything. So, okay, I've got comments here. Could allowances be on the aspect through an organization? Okay, so organizations are still working with respect to compensation on what they want to keep and what they want to not give, So they, whatever slashes we are expecting, or whatever may emerge from what they believe is to be done. From learning and personality development point of view, which we can learn from other people in the organization, we're observing them merely, which if understood and implemented in self, might benefit the organization as well as, yes, doesn't allow that. What is your view? Yes, we lose out. We lose out on a lot of observational learning. We lose out on social interaction, and there is no denying that. Then nothing can actually replace the joy of being in a team if you really liked your team and going there, sitting with them, brainstorming immediately and working. We are making do for that loss by using technology as well as we can. I will not say that we have to, we can do away with the people interaction. Man is a social animal. So eventually people will always like to be with people. Rarely are people so asocial as to say that they don't want people around them. So those, I think, would be the exceptions in my world of understanding. But yeah. Okay, so let's go into implementation. Any other questions? Anyone wants to say something?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Ma'am, I had a query in regard when it comes down to people who are working in the field of, say, client servicing, or when it comes down to marketing or sales.
Yeah.
A lot of marketers or salespeople judge their clients on basis of the vibe they're getting in the physical interaction on talks. Like wherever the client meetings are there, or wherever the marketers are heading out to their offices to understand their vibe and the requirements and needs and stuff. But with this entire lockdown situation, I mean, is the communication over Zoom meetings or emails causing some sort of shortcomings when it comes down to implementing what the client actually needs? Like, you can judge a lot of stuff when the client is actually depicting it through its vibe by talking to you face to face as compared to on Zoom or on email. So what should the organizations look into this in what way? Like,
see, frankly, if you ask me, I believe that you will know the vibe of a person even if they are on a text message. Okay. This is my belief. Okay. I believe that the tone, I mean, if tone were not important, we wouldn't be taught to say hello with a smile.
Okay.
Okay. So tone matters. Personal interaction, if you are able to leverage video conferencing well, then I think to some extent, we are able to, circumvent that. If you're talking about an interaction where video conferencing is not possible, telephones also not possible, and all you have is email going through and fro, to and fro, then yes, maybe what you are saying is right, where we have in fact lost out on some major cues, about the client. But are we in that space today? I don't think so. We are all technologically reasonably well advanced, and we are able to, accept that. It is true, if you're talking about a store, if you're talking about a retail store, like for say, it's the salesperson is standing there and he's looking at the customer and he's making an assessment of, I can probably cross-sell this to this customer. Then yes, I have missed out on that because today I'm doing only what I need online.
Correct.
So those kind of, yes. So that's why I said no. So when we talk of the challenges, in functional design, we'll refer to this and say it's possible at all. No?
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so now let's go into our next one. Yellow. Implementation. Okay, so this picture, all people, especially interested in HR, should take a very good look at this picture. Because HR implementations are typically very personal to employees. So you want to do it right the first time. Many times what happens is we sound right, but then the actions and the effects of it are not so right. So, I think this is something which we should remember. So what I've done here is just put up some stuff on challenges in the implementation of work from home policies. Okay. So the very first thing, and I think we've got this point twice today, is the functional design, highly possible, which will include any kind of knowledge work, IT, ITS, etc. Not possible, which will include front lines, Say the person who has to dispense cash at the bank can't do so sitting in the house. Okay, so we have certain jobs which cannot be carried out. The person who has to carry out experiments in a lab has to be present in the lab. So you have some things which are not possible at all, and possible at a cost which is, say, sales. So all these things like sales, marketing, etc., where let us say I can make it possible, but I need to understand how to manage the logistics surrounding it. So that is something which will, probably put impact this one. Possible at a cost. So this is the first thing, understanding the nature of the design of work for your own organization, understanding the functional design and being ready to know that, okay, maybe you can't do work from home across the organization, but you can take out, say, 60%. And 40% which you can't do, you say, okay, I'll do this sitting in the office. So that is something which you can do. The second thing is the complex change of process and procedures. So like we were talking about, say in the example Zishan gave just now about the TCS thing. So people are used to a certain kind of working. Okay, you know that if you needed something done. So let's say you wanted to get a check issued. You say you're an operations guy, you just walk into accounts and say that, chalo ye check issue kara do, and you call them like 2 times on the intercom and the job is done. But today, if you look at it, you are not sure who is going to issue it. You don't know who's the guy who's actually sitting there to, write that down. You don't know if that person is stuck in lockdown somewhere else, the signatories. So you have too many things in the process which require change. So you end up having to rethink the entire SOP. And I'm sure that we can relate to this so clearly now, especially. So because if you looked at a time when we were just able to get a packet off of Amazon and we could just, cut it open and see what was in it, see whether what you needed was received. Today, you know that mandatorily you're supposed to leave it aside for some number of hours at least. So have we not made changes in our day-to-day living? Like we used to buy the sabzis and we used to cut them and we could use them. Today, we can't do that. So we cut them and then we clean them thoroughly. Then we ensure that they dry out, So everything, if you see, has required a change in the procedure. So why are organizations any different? They are also aligning with these changes now. So whenever you're talking about a work from home, you need to really understand how many people you want there. What is your manpower planning? Your manpower planning takes a complete overhaul. So when you say that I need to have some people, I don't need to have these people, I may look at a shift system. I may look at some sort of, staggered mechanism, deferred working. So we have plenty of things that will come through. So this is again the second challenge, in terms of your ability to master this point number 2. The third is communication barriers to team collaboration. Again, I think these have come through the chat, See, let us say you have an organization where people have always worked in silos. By silos, I mean, they just got their own knowledge within themselves. They are not typically interactive. Or let's say you have probably a very autocratic kind of a culture, strong directional control. The boss will tell, people will do, they'll go report to the boss. Not much peer interaction. If you have that kind of a culture, the same barriers which were not apparent in the workplace will start showing their effects now in this online working. They were not apparent then. The barriers probably existed, but they were underplayed. Today they seem to be more, it seems like a mountain today. So that is something again. So if your barriers are not right, then this is one thing. The other equal concern is out of sight is out of mind. So there is a high likelihood that maybe you're left out of a meeting. Okay. Someone forgets to inform you or the mail doesn't reach you. Okay. So what happens is your own insecurity starts growing. Arey, meeting hua, nobody told me how I got left out. and then you start wondering about why is it that you were the only person that got left out, and so on and so forth. So these are all things also which will start affecting, you know, team collaboration mechanism. So your communication processes need to be very strong. So that is one thing. Again, this will only be facilitated if you have a decent culture, an open culture of communication where people can speak up and raise their concerns and ask. Okay. Poor employee engagement, more specifically undetected disengaged employees. Okay, so let's say somebody is sitting in the organization, but let's say that person is unhappy or this person is disengaged. Okay, it is evident, right? It's like if you have somebody sulking in the house, so you know that somebody is sulking. Why? Because the behaviors are evident. The behavior reveals itself. Today, this is something which you cannot detect. So let us say there is somebody who is working for you, but then when you're picking up the phone, that person's, you know, responding normally, or the interaction has been only through mail. So then now you see we are putting a lot of load on the managers to ensure that he talks regularly to all his people and ensure that everybody is in the right state of mental health and feel. So this is something again, which is a big challenge. Technology hiccups again. Technology, I think, especially in the Indian context, remains to be the biggest challenge. Because we battle a lot of infrastructural issues here in our country. Okay, so while the purchasing is there, while people are able to say access high technology, whether you will get what you bargained for or what you asked for is still sometimes a bit of a question mark. Okay, so technological hiccups in terms of the kind of infrastructure which is available at that employee's end becomes a issue. And security concerns, of course, which has been highlighted through and through. I think that is again a very core concern. We have had data loss happening while companies have been working within the office framework. Needless to say, the risk is very high when people are, if you let us say randomly allow access to people, you really don't know what is the level of compromise you're looking at. Okay. So these are just some of the things that I have put here. So any questions on this? And any views that you wish to share? Anything else which you feel is a challenge? So please speak up. No views on implementation, HR wale? This is a core. I said today I have not made anything a very exhaustive list. I have left a lot of things, you know, just like that. Let students think and tell. You want to go through that list again before you speak up? I can put it in case if that list will help you all. Anything else that you feel should be there? No. So I'm presuming you're all champions of implementation. Cool. Okay, so now what I've done is I've just tried to put down what I think is a remote ecosystem. Okay, so we know what is an environment. It is the things that surround us. An ecosystem is us, you know, in interaction with the environment around us. So if you had to look at the remote ecosystem, you know, the holistic, the entirety of it, you have the organization, you have the employee's home, you have the technological infrastructure at both the ends, you have the cultures at both the ends, you have the new psychological contract for doing out the work, and an alignment of systems and processes to the new normal. So you have all of these things which are going to characterize your remote work system, your ecosystem. Okay, so go through each of them. So first is your organization, the company, the culture, the value systems, the nature of your work, the way you worked in your organization. 2 is the employee's home, because that is where he is working today. So that is his office now. So the nature, how is it? Is it quiet? Is it loud? Does he have many people there? Is only few people? Does he have the necessary, does he have a proper dedicated place to work? Does he have to adjust with a lot of people while he's doing his work? So all those factors, you know, the office at home. The technological infrastructure, organizations have very powerful servers, high-speed internet, everything within the LAN and all that. If you look at the home, person is working on the best internet that is accessible to him at his residence. You do have standard service providers, so he may or may not have availed of those facilities yet, and he may be still considering a switch based on his own salary and affordability. So you're looking at the technological infrastructure at both the ends. You have cultures at both the ends. So let's say he had an organization where he had a friendly team, he was going there, he used to take his 11 o'clock chai ka break, 1 o'clock lunch, it was full chill. But here the home environment is a little different. Probably he has elders in the family, he's got youngsters in the family, he's got household chores to manage. So you have, the culture is different, right? I mean, probably at workplace, if there was a meeting, he could get to work. Here there is probably something called an interruption. Okay, so the culture itself, so that is something here. A new psychological contract for work. See, somewhere if you see all along in our life, whenever we signed an offer, whenever we accepted the offer, the contract, we always viewed ourselves as employees. So that means we said that, yes, I devote my 9 to 5 for this organization. Okay, and somewhere we did that with a clear understanding that nothing else would come in between us, nothing would come between the employee and the organization during 9 to 5. Okay, rare days were all right, sometimes someone falls sick, somebody has to go home a little early, somebody has some personal work, that is fine. But the psychological contract was typically something which mentally told the employee that he is going to carry out the work that the company was paying him for. Okay, sitting in the company's office. So that is the original contract. Now we are looking at a slightly different one where we are saying that you are now at home, but I'm going to take time out of your home for you to carry out my work because I'm paying you. But you see, today it is no more just a question of I pay you, you do. It is a question of you need to align with this employee. You need to ensure that he's able to carry out his work. The employee is also managing his own stresses and so on. So this new psychological contract is again something we need to probably consider. And an alignment of systems and processes to the new normal. So this takes into account all those other processes, everything, the operational workflows in the organization, which were not aligned with working from home. So let us say you have an organization where you have, say, 10 levels of hierarchy, and let us say the top 4 levels were given access to working from home. So let us say AVPs and above you had allowed. But let us say divisional managers or managers and below you had never allowed. Okay, so what happens in this scenario? In this scenario, the people who are below probably have no clue as to how they are supposed to carry this out, because A, they never had the access to the systems. They never probably knew how they were supposed to carry out the work, what was expected of them, to deliver. The most that they have ever done in terms of working from home is like supposing they are on sick leave and some colleague calls, they would pick up the phone and answer and tell them, "Acha, dekh lo, ye file wahan rakha hai, is pe ye sign hai, wo client se baat kar lo." It was very, it was at a very shallow, a very superficial level. But today, if this has to be done all the time, and we have been doing this for close to 2 months, you're looking at a complete realignment of your workflows. You're looking at restructuring your processes to fit in with this. So this entire thing, and all the mechanisms that you need, the way you will hold your meetings, the way you will communicate, what is the timeline that you can expect, factoring these delays, all of that will form the new ecosystem. Now, obviously, with this kind of a scenario, this job of driving high performance becomes an even bigger challenge, because now you are doing everything through remote control. Driving high performance was a mammoth task because it just expects the team and the managers to both be at their optimal best in a properly typical regular functioning environment that we were traditionally used to. Take away that. Now you're saying, I want high performance. Why? Because business is badly affected. So everybody wants high performance today. You want high performance in a volatile, unstable, stressful environment for the managers, the employees, the senior levels, everyone across. Okay, so here are certain things that one can look at. So one thing is clarifying your expectations. So by expectations, I mean your goals, your timelines, what will constitute an escalation, what is possible, what kind of controls you want to have, all of it. All of that is what will clarify your performance expectations. Second is measurement, telling your people, I will measure you if you for A, B, C, D, and E. I will not consider PQR. And if I find that you have not done XYZ, then you had it. Being able to so clearly state this, that this is what I expect, you please do this, and I want you to do this consistently. So clarifying the expectations and clarifying the measurement, both of them will form the very first step, and they go hand in hand. Okay, you can't have a bunch of expectations laid out and a different set of measures, because that is like killing your own performance system. So you tell people what you expect and you say you go and measure what you told them to do. The third is training your managers to appraise and evaluate. Now, in the new norms, when you go back here, when we spoke of this entire business of alignment, point number 3 is very relevant to that alignment. We need to train our managers how to appraise and evaluate. Going back to the same point we said earlier, when we had people, we knew, right? We knew what people were doing. Today, I don't know what people are doing. Either I can trust or I can distrust. So it is my choice, right? I'm taking a choice here, whether to take the leap of faith or not take it. So that is something we do. Then you have communication and feedback. So communication here is all the communication flows. Telling people, interacting, engagement, giving them the feedback, guiding them, supporting, the lot of it. Infrastructure, any other support that you want, you need to ensure. So if you want the employee to go for say high speed internet and it is going to come at a cost, and you say, okay, fine, I'll pay that allowance or whatever. And the leadership commitment to making this work. Okay, so a lot of it will largely depend upon the leadership stand on this. Okay, so that is why if you probably got this bit, put properly in place, then you will still look at, people working well and not taking this as something like a paid vacation. I mean, you can also breathe easy because you are not distrusting your staff to not work. Okay, so this takes care of the discussion on remote ecosystem. Now I think now you all will have questions. Then we have only the last unit after this. So, any questions on this? Why don't you all have any questions when it comes to high performance in organization? It's weird that.
Ma'am, with regards to the ecosystem that you spoke of, and considering the family structures in India and also the sizes of home generally, so for a lot of people it would be very difficult to probably manage work from home with all the distraction around, right? So in that case, our organization is probably considering something like you have what you call as remote working places. So things like your office or the other independent working places where you can just log in for once and pay off and move out.
See,
the co-working space, the co-working space to give out to their employees. Is this being discussed? Of course, we are still far off from implementation, but are there any of these considerations being evaluated?
See, organizations have in fact tied up with hotels and the like. Okay, so I'll tell you what the banks have done. The banks have allowed people to go and work with their nearest branches. Okay, so the first thing that they did was, because they were part of the essential services, so they kind of had to, stop this whole business of movement. So they changed, so let's say you have staff A going from, say, Goregaon to, say, Bandra. So staff A now goes to the Goregaon branch. So this is how they all operated. Okay. Now what they have done is, so they have taken some organizations, I fail to remember the name, but I was reading yesterday. Some organizations have tied up with certain hotels, okay, to arrange for, meeting rooms and, kind of, smaller workplaces, places where they will serve as dedicated office spaces. But these are again things which will be given access to only a certain percentage of your staff. So this is not something that has been rolled out across. Okay. A lot of the design will depend upon the nature of the role and the percentage of employees who need to be working from home. If you actually took this a little deeper, you look at, not so far the thinking has only been that only say 10%, 20 maybe, have been working from home. Your IT organizations have been very forward in this. they have allowed a lot of their people, to be working from home. Most of their people who have had maternity leaves, they have extended them 6 months more by allowing them to work from home. So they've done a lot of all these, how do I say, forward interventions. Okay. But if you're looking at this point of time, if you're looking at down the lines, if you're looking at, say, managers below, executives and so on, the requirement is that they will be in their homes and they'll be working. Okay, unless there is a need for them to avail of this kind of a facility. Okay, so the question of this distraction that you're talking about is something which I think people will have to probably find their own ways to adapt and adjust, at least in the initial. I think by now we are through that stage. I think probably that concern would have been much more in the month of March and April when everything was in a flux.
Okay.
But there are places where that happens. This is happening more in the West. If you looked at US and all, they have done a lot of, they've had concierge services. So they have done a lot of all of this, these interventions, All
right. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions? Clarity on what expense the company will cover, like Wi-Fi expense and electricity bill. Okay, so something very interesting came up when I was speaking to somebody. They said that the compensation information itself was something which they would not put out on the external service because that is confidential data. So organizations at this time are paying people whatever they are paying. Smaller, medium enterprises like your SMEs or family businesses have probably stopped paying. Some of them are paying them 50%. So people have all taken an arbitrary decision basis their ability to pay. I think at this point of time in our country, we are looking at ability to pay and what we want to do and how much we want to give whom and at what cost to retain. Like typically in compensation, we will always take the view as what is the maximum I'm ready to give this person to retain this person and what is the least minimum I need to give to hire this person. I think we are only operating on that minimum maximum principle at this time. So that is how it is. In the larger MNCs, people are all being paid whatever salaries they were drawing. There has been no deductions yet. So, but I would expect them to continue to cover these expenses. I don't think, because it's as it is, if the only thing that should ideally get affected might be conveyance and I'm not sure. Okay, so there is Umar sir has shared a nice article. So I think we should go through this as well. It is difficult to performance of individual, which will give barrier in promotion. Optimize performance in the sense, are you talking about challenges in performing from home? Is that
yes,
the? Acha, okay. See, if it's very effort dependent, if your work is very effort dependent, then yes, because effort is something which is not visible to us now. Organizations are typically looking for results. So, and results are naturally tough in a situation like this, which is exceptionally, which is an exception situation. So if you're looking at this kind of a thing, where you're talking about not being able to optimize, I'm not sure if it's if it's effort driven or you want to be recognized for your efforts, may not happen. Any other queries? No? Okay, so then I'll move on to the next and the last bit of this thing. Okay, so the last bit of this whole discussion was accepting the authentic employee. Okay, so the first and the core understanding is who is this authentic employee? Okay, so these are just certain things which I have put together, basis some studies on authentic living, authenticity at the workplace, and so on. Okay, so the first thing is that this employee has an identity which extends beyond office. Okay, typically when you see people at the workplace, you're only looking at them for the roles they occupy. Today you are confronted with a person who has roles beyond what you thought they had. Okay, he is carrying out his work with this merged identity. So this person is at home, he's fulfilling his roles at home while at the same time carrying out office work. The third is he has priorities and commitments which may clash with office priorities. So let's say you have a meeting at 9 and this person is probably just finishing some chores. So this kind of a clash can happen, which probably, while it's all right and fine to say that yes, everything needs to be adjusted and we believe all of it and all of that is accepted as well, but this is something which we need to kind of deal with. Okay, may set his or her own boundaries due to lack of formal timings and structure. So if your organization has given people the flexibility to work, as in if you've given people flexible timings that they can work when they want to work, this person may set their own boundaries. So somebody may say he'll start his work at 11, someone will say he'll start his work at 8. So that kind of a thing can happen. Okay, this person has personal needs which are being met by the organization. So this person needs to pay bills, pay rent, repay loans, feed his family, shoulder responsibilities, everything. So all of these personal needs are being met by the organization. He has organizational needs also, which respect to growth, pay raise, secure job, a collaborative team, social interaction, etc. Needless to say, in either case, the organization needs him for his skill sets, for his performance, and what he can deliver for the organization. With respect to perception, this employee may seem to be far different from what you saw in office. Or let's say you are used to seeing somebody all the time. In a different context, this person may be a little different than what you saw. Now, this, if you looked at this person in the entirety of it, so typically we would say that even while we were working at the office, so let's say in Mumbai especially, let's say you had rains in the monsoon. Suddenly when you hear that the trains are stopping, you will find people calling up home to find where their people are, whether the kids have reached home, whether the parents are back home, and so on and so forth. Okay, but all along we expected them to do that and switch back to work. Okay, this identity always existed. We also had a case where, let's say, people had a bad day at home, they walked into work, with a certain mood. And then you had people who had a bad day at office, they walked back to work with the same kind of a mood. So we had this awareness all the time. We just never had to actively work with it. Now what we have is a new situation where we are working in this context. So now you look at the complexity of the environment. Suddenly you have different people with these kind of different challenges, and all of them are working together for one organization to fulfill those organizations' goals and objectives properly and deliver high performance in this complex environment. So that is what we have. So now obviously the concern for us is what is the road to this acceptance? So the very first thing is this clear communication about expectations and deliverables. Trust in your employees, trust in the fact that they would perform. Okay, the employees trust in the organization to do what is right for them, and that in terms of their job security, in terms of their roles, etc. Compassion, okay, compassion that people are going through whatever that they are. Compassion is a very, very important virtue, a rare one, especially in a very cutthroat competitive world, but it is still it is probably one virtue which stands out when you talk of humanity and when you talk of personal touch. Leadership, good leadership, good employees, good work culture. So, if your leadership is committed to this whole to positivity as a work culture, if the leadership is committed to working from home, to offer flexibility, to offer that kind of trust in employees, and the same culture will percolate. And creating a culture of open-mindedness. Now, this is again a very important thing. Open-mindedness means acceptance of differing opinions, willingly, happily, accepting ideas when they are rejected, tolerating mistakes when they happen, setting people on corrective action, giving constructive feedback, genuinely appreciating people when they do a good job. So all of it will constitute what is a culture of open-mindedness. Okay, we speak of open-mindedness many times, but we don't know how to keep an open mind. So it is not about keeping something, it is about behaving openly. And by behaving with an open mind means doing all of it, listening when somebody speaks, respecting another's opinion, and so on. So if you have put all these elements in the culture, then what will happen is for this transition, the path becomes easier. So you end up accepting this employee in a better way because of all these changes in the environment, you know. So that is the reason why this whole business of working from home has become a challenge to organizations and everyone. Is some of these have been overlooked, some of these have not been done right, some of this we've done very well. So to put all of this together becomes a challenge. Okay, so these are just some of the points that I wanted to share. So if you guys have anything to share or ask, so, okay, there are some questions here. Authenticity of the employees comes with interaction and team building, provides emotional support and steady support from boss. How can one handle it in working from home? I think it is possible to handle this, you know, while working from home, because to provide a support is more a question of being there for somebody with their genuine interest at heart. See, you can't say I am there for somebody, but the way, if you provided, you do things my way, you know, it can't be my way or the highway. So that is something again which, so I think that emotional support is there. Steady support from boss, I think guidance is the main thing, right? Like from boss, if you look at it, you want to be guided in the right path where your performance is concerned. If you don't have resources, that person should tell you. So I don't see why that should become, you know, a matter of concern, if you ask me. So I think that should be covered. Any other questions? Anything else you wish to say? Any other differing views? Whatever. You guys are not even in your classroom. Why do we have the break syndrome again here? You know, the time before the break and then everyone gets into this one Zen zone.
Yes, another major challenge of working from home is the attention span.
That is, Umar, that is not only at home.
No, it is half of what it is probably there in maybe in a physical environment.
Possibly, I don't know that. I personally have done it for so many years, and I think it works fine. I mean, if you've had to prioritize your needs, you know, as a person, then you realize that it requires a lot of self-discipline. You can't do this without discipline. You need.
I was referring specifically to the case of learning and education.
Yeah. It's a must.
Yeah.
It's a must. I can see a lot of smiles.
Ma'am, I asked question in the chat box. Can you please reply on it?
Yeah, I will. Okay, sorry. Most of the senior management not being as tech savvy to WFH, will it be affecting the decision making of any organization in any ways? Honestly, I think, you know, senior management take decisions, the biggest decisions over telephone calls. It is my view. Okay, I don't think that their decision making should be impacted by the quality of the apps and their familiarity with technology, unless you have somebody who is so driven to hands-on work. Like, you know, there are some VPs who will not understand the working of a system unless they sit and feed a few entries. If you're not there, then you really have nothing much to worry about decision making, is my view. A lot of people accepted WFH as a good option because they're saving extra costs like traveling. Oh yes, but on the other hand, a lot of social interaction is missing out. Will this be an issue? Not at all. Unless you were always delighted to work with your staff. See, you miss the team interaction, but then if you look at a city like Mumbai, tell me how many of you all miss travel? Let's quickly get a show of hands. How many of you all miss traveling? Okay, so we have some people who miss traveling. Okay, I have never missed traveling. I miss seeing my students. I don't deny that. It's not the same as walking into a classroom. But I think it is very important for us to be productive. I think if so long as I'm productive and I'm doing good work on any given day, I think that is sorted, I think, you know. Team building. I think largely what organizations will have to probably look at is rebuilding their teams in this new context. How do we engage employees differently? So we need to probably relook at how we are doing, how we do our work. How will employee engagement work for WFH? Employee engagement is not targeted only with WFH as an objective. I think you need to understand that engagement is an ongoing process. The objective is much larger, guys. It's not about, you don't say I'm engaging an employee today for him to attain this month's sales targets. Would you do engagement that way? No. So engagement is never to be done with one particular thing. It has a larger objective. It is retention. It is to develop a certain sense of belonging. It is to help people work better and instill that sense of commitment to the organization. So you have to continue to engage them by offering them different kinds of support to see how you are going to nurture that interaction. How are you going to ease that, bring certain amount of virtual social interactions? So those may be things to look at. But I would not narrow down the objective to this. Other views, anything else you guys wish to say?
Any more queries for ma'am, please? Anybody? Hello. Okay. Ma'am, then.
Done?
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Can we have a round of applause for ma'am? I guess she's really put in a lot of efforts for the session.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. I really hope you all liked it.
Yes, definitely. I certainly enjoy, and there's a lot to learn. And I guess I can speak on their behalf on this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Have a lovely Sunday, guys. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Guys, just wait back. Kalim sir is joining in, so we can continue with the meeting. Any student of class of 1820 can probably leave this meeting. So students of 1820 can leave the meeting. 1921, just hold back. I hope you still remember what your batch is. Yeah, Geet Rajani, just hold on. You're still 21.
Have the remaining students joined in, remaining specialization, or they're joining in now?
They're signing in, sir.
Anupama ma'am is done with?
Yeah.